That's a 2452 on the looks of it. Not sure if I can actually see the serial number there. Looks like 69377, maybe 47, something like that. So here we have my Singer 24. Oops, sorry. It's mounted on actually a Singer 301 cradle, which I've drilled some holes in. And this is an industrial version. I've had to do some modifications. I have bought another one of these for parts, but I found that I couldn't get the tension as good as using these from a Singer 15 and then cutting down the spring and adjusting it like this. Eventually I hope to get a proper knob here, and I think that will solve the problem. But in the meantime, this is kind of an interesting Singer 15 because it has this extra bit at the back to help maintain tension. So I'm going to show you a bit of how this works. So to thread it, you put it through the holes. Through some extra thread and through there around. I've already got the disc here open because this pops in and out as the machine sews to give perfect tension. Put through the clip. There, and this bulb in the front, and then through the needle left to right. Again, as usual, I have to sit way off to the side so the camera can see what's going on. It's also, this can go on an industrial chain, so you can connect that underneath, but actually it's really convenient having that there. So I've put the hem guide on just for some fun, and to show you a bit of how this sews. So I might change sides because it makes it a bit easier to get at the treadle because I can't actually sit there with the camera there. So one moment. So this, being an industrial machine, can go very fast. Now the first thing that's interesting about this is, of course, it goes in reverse to normal Singer, or to the majority of Singers. It actually spins towards the back. But if you watch how this machine sews, it's got this little finger here which goes up and down. What that does is it pulls thread through the tensioner, and because this is adjustable, see that finger up and down, what it does is it always makes sure the correct amount of thread is adjustable. So you have to adjust it to make sure you get perfect loops on the other side. If this is not adjusted right, it can be too tight or too loose. But what I believe this assists with is you can ruffle by just tightening this up and sewing really very lightweight fabric and just bunch up the fabric. What you also notice is as you sew, this thing goes in and out. So when it's in, what happens is it holds that thread tight, and this finger comes down and pulls out the thread for the next stitch. It also permits this to go up and form the loop. And that's basically how it sews. So I'm going to go on the treadle now so that you can see a bit how this works. So let's see how the tension is. So it's very good, but perhaps sometimes you might want a bit more loop. So if you want a bit more loop, that means we need to bring that up a bit, and then that makes it less tight. Now this machine can stow it up to 2,000 stitches per minute. Which you can see it does very easily. You just have to go faster than the treadle. And it sews when it's all adjusted and working perfectly and there's no surprises and the thread, it's a bit fussy, I won't dispute. But if everything is adjusted perfectly, it gives absolutely really, really good loops. And you can get very good tension. So let me show you like this. Come down here. Whoops, that was dumb, turned it backwards. You gotta watch that sometimes, so you don't get a thread jam. And the other thing which you have to get used to is, you can't just pull the thread on this. This has to be out in order to pull the thread through. So if it's in the locked position, then you can't do it. But when the needle's at the highest position, it's usually, you have to measure it from there. So let me go here. So I would like this on a much more stable, so you see it vibrates a bit. But that's only because it's on a Singer 301 cradle. So that can make it a bit imperfect to sew on at high speeds because it wobbles. So the vibrations will upset the tension a little bit. So yeah, I can't sew as fast as I would like on this as if it were on a solid table. However, I can live without 2,000 stitches per minute to get really nice chain stitch. So I'm thinking, okay, what can I do with this? Well, cushions, curtains, because it can go miles and miles and miles and miles. So you can see, really good. So this is quite heavy cotton. This is very, very good, thick cotton, and it's sewing it very perfectly. You can see when I was doing some practice and adjusting the settings how you can make the loops adjust and change, but if you've got it set perfectly you get that sort of high quality tension. So I can loosen this a bit more so that you can actually see some loops being formed. Let's just see how we get on here. Yeah, so now you can see, even at that long stitch length, now I've got loops, whereas it was really tight before. So you can adjust the stitch length, but when you adjust the stitch length, you also need to adjust this to decide how you want your loop. So if you want a bigger loop, you can adjust the loop, or you can have it tighter. It's entirely up to you how you want the stitch to look. But either way, it sews really nicely. So as usual with these, you have to raise it to the highest, pull through the thread. Okay. Then, because it's a chain stitch machine, you need to get under here to pull the thread and cut it after. I got my wrong scissors. Snip, then pull it out of the looper, and it's secured in place. So here what we can do is try and zoom this in, and hopefully the camera will fix. So you can see I can adjust the loops tighter or looser depending on the look I want. And that's the advantage of this contraption here. So once you've got it perfectly set up for the weight of your thread and the fabric, when you adjust the stitch length, you can adjust this to decide how you want to do it. So if you turn this really tight, so you push it all the way down so it pulls less thread through, when it makes a loop, it reduces everything and automatically ruffles. So imagine, because this is a 2452, they would have used this for coffins and lace stuff like that. So the other thing of interest I will show you in a moment. So I have managed to get myself a mostly complete puzzle box for the Singer 24. I think there are a couple pieces missing. I have the full set here, but I have on the machine I've already put the hem guide. I've got obviously a quilting guide. got the ruffler, pin tucker, and a number of hemming feet, a little mini screwdriver of some sort, or pointer. I'm not sure exactly what it does. I haven't looked all these things up, but it's just kind of fun to have these. They're all labeled, actually. I suppose I could look that up. But I thought it'd be fun to eventually try these out. This needs some oiling for sure. It's a bit stiff. However, it works. So I think with a bit of love, I'll be able to get this to do what it's supposed to do. You can see it's got the guide underneath, so you can put ribbon and whatnot. It's got the hole to attach it in. These are a little bit oddball, these ones, because of the way they attach. So they don't actually attach to the compressor bar, which is quite an interesting thing. They go in reverse. So this, I'm guessing, will actually go there, except it doesn't fit. So I have to figure out exactly how this fits. I know there's a hole in the base plate somewhere. So considering it feeds that way, I mean, it's got to go backwards like that. So it's definitely going to be sitting somewhere there to ruffle. So this will be fun to figure out, but I will worry about that eventually, and I will do a video one of these days on how it works. So perhaps it might need to go in that hole there, but then it won't attach. But I have another plate for this machine, which was the one that originally came with it. So I've had to sort of buy part machines. So you can see my part machine here, which is not quite so beautiful for sure, but it did provide some of the parts I needed. And this is the original plate from the machine, but I didn't have an original foot, but I managed to get a feed dog, so this one's quite a lot bigger on this machine, so I'm not sure. But I've managed to get one that I've managed to cobble together to work this. But you notice there's extra holes here, so I have a feeling aha! So this should have a hole. So in order to use this, I'll have to put the other plate on. That's what's going on. So it needs the hole. So that's interesting. This is the thing about these 24s. They're all kind of odd and different. But the feet, see, this has a much bigger feed dog than this. Much, much wider than the original one that was on this 2452. But this ruffler will fit on this plate, so it's just as well as I've kept everything, so I can switch it back and forth. It's only 2 screws, so it's pretty easy to do. So that's how the ruffler will go there. So that'll be fun to try out. So I'll switch the plates around and then we can try that. Okay, so what I've done now is I have, oops, wrong way. I have reduced the stitch length and what you can see, and I've adjusted the looper so we can make bigger loops. This is where the advantage of the industrial comes in, because you can sew so quickly. So you can see, you reduce the size of those. It makes really, really, really nice, perfect loops. And then if you needed to reduce it, like if you didn't want the loop to be that decorative, for instance, you could spin this around. We'll try and adjust it and see what we can do. So I will zoom out. So I want to have less loop, so I move that down there a bit. Try a couple of stitches and see how much tighter that is. Still sitting sideways here, it's incredible challenge. So they're looser than they were, or they're tighter than they were before. You can see just by making that little adjustment. I'll zoom in so you can see the different loops. Okay, oops. So you can see there was the original one, and then I adjusted it using that lever. And that's the sort of thing you can do with the 24, which is pretty nifty. So it's the same length, just a different effect depending on the sort of fabric and what you want to sew. And then off you go. So if you're doing miles of curtains, you could actually do them very successfully in this. Miles and miles and miles of anything because of the speed. And you can see how it keeps consistent throughout the length of that stitch, which is really what you want, because I'm a bit of a fusspot about having good quality stitches, and sometimes chain stitches are not all that perfectly synchronized. So we've got 4 examples here of 2 different lengths, but 2 different adjustments to get that effect. So you can have more decorative or you can have more functional depending on what you need. And if you keep tightening that, then eventually you'll start ruffling the fabric. So I hope you found that interesting.